Today's guest is Brian Fuller. Based out of Nashville, Brian has been building his reputation as a country artist to follow, racking up hundreds of thousands of streams on Spotify last year and making big moves to the future with the likes of his latest song release, More of You. Welcome, Brian.
Woo.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Brian, welcome.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's great to have you here. So you're in Nashville right now, right?
Yep, I live in right outside of town in a town called Hermitage. It's probably about 20 minutes from actually like downtown Nashville. But I've lived in this house that I'm in right now since July of last year, and previous to that I lived in Hendersonville, and I've lived here coming up almost 2 years now. I moved here in March of 2019, I think.
Nice. That's awesome. Where did you live before you moved to there in March?
I'm from Savannah, Georgia. So I grew up in Savannah. I actually grew up right outside of Savannah. I don't know if you guys have ever been, but I grew up right outside in a little town called Springfield. And I hung out around, I don't know if you've ever heard of Georgia Southern, but that's like a big college down there. I live about 30 or 45 minutes from there, which is Georgia Southern and Statesboro. So I spent a lot of my time in Statesboro and then around Savannah.
Fantastic. Oh man, that's awesome. That's where you kind of got started then in the music scene or your music skills, I guess?
Yeah, so my parents actually most of my family's musicians, and growing up, that's just kind of like, that's really all that I knew. My uncle was a drummer, and so I grew up listening to him. He was in a heavy metal band, and I listened to him play the drums, and they're like rehearsals and stuff. And I got into guitar. He was a drummer, so I picked up drums, and I got into the piano a little bit, and then got into the guitar and started singing and playing live shows when I was like 13 or 14. It's just kind of been doing it ever since, man. It was just something that I've always enjoyed doing. I started actually writing songs when I was probably about 15. So that's where that started, at that age, and just been doing it ever since, man.
That's awesome. Did you do oh, sorry. Go ahead.
When you first started writing songs, was there like an artist that inspired you to want to write songs for yourself?
Not really, man. I really didn't know what songwriting consisted of, as far as obviously sitting down with a guitar and trying to come up with lyrics and a melody and stuff, but there wasn't really anybody that I looked up to at that age and was like, man, I want to write songs like that, or I want to do that type of thing, just because I really didn't know what all went along with it. I was very new to the songwriting thing. So at that point in time, it was just kind of, I guess, figuring out, what I wanted to write about and what songwriting really was, I guess.
Did you always listen to music, or did you ever write, you said you grew up listening to like heavy metal and rock and stuff too. Did you ever try and write those genres, or was it always been country for you?
Honestly, man, it just depended on the day, what I was feeling that day. I never really wanted to be, when I was younger, I didn't really want to be like an artist, like Chris Stapleton or somebody like that. I wanted to be a studio musician. I learned how to play guitar and got really good at playing, and so I never really had the idea to be an actual, an artist. And then, so it was really just writing guitar lyrics and riffs and coming up with cool stuff. And then when I actually started writing lyrics and stuff, I had so much of an influence from growing up in a small town in South Georgia. So it was really, all I knew was that country lifestyle, I guess. So I didn't really have the tools to be writing stuff on the heavier side of things like rock. So
yeah, that makes sense. No, that's awesome. So did you ever join a band, or have you been solo for ever, really?
Yeah, I actually, whenever I was a kid, I shopped at this guitar store called Portman's. It's in Savannah. And every year they had this thing called, I think it was called Rock Camp. and it was a way for kids and teenagers to get into being in a band and learning how to kind of get along with everybody in a band and playing their part. And so I did that a few times for a few years. It was an annual thing they did. You would go for about a week, and they would pair you up with other musicians, and you'd learn 2 or 3 songs. And at the end of the week, you would play it in front of a crowd, or it was mainly just a family who was actually in the camp.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then whenever I was like 14, I think I was about 13 or 14, I was in a band for a little while, just some buddies that I grew up with. I honestly don't even remember the name of them. I think we played like 3 or 4 shows in some backyards.
Nice.
But I did that, and then I've got a band right now. I tour with a band, so I've never been. I did acoustic stuff, around Savannah. I would play acoustic bars and do that kind of thing. But here for the past couple of years, I've been touring with a band.
That's awesome, man. Oh man, that's so cool. So now you live in Nashville. How's the community there? How do you feel like the music community is, I guess?
It's really cool, man. I was actually just talking to I did an interview with Raised Rowdy the other day, and we were just talking about the same thing. Once you get to town, man, you just kind of find your niche and kind of find the people that you like to hang out with and that you get along with and write the best songs with and have the best vibes around. And once I moved to town, I found my group pretty quickly, and it's made up mostly of people that are from Georgia and actually live. He's sitting right here. I live with one of the guys that we hang out with all the time. His name's Elijah Borders. He's here doing some editing on his computer. It's me and him and a guy named Tyler Chambers and Dylan Marlowe and Noah Hicks and a couple other guys, Lee Links, and all of us. We hang out pretty close with each other, and we got each other's backs. So I guess essentially, once you find your niche and the people you like to hang out with, you just kind of go from there. But everybody wants everybody to succeed. There's people that we don't hang out with that we look up to, or they look up to us, and we're just kind of rooting everybody on and hoping for the best.
So you're mentioning
that's good.
You had to find your niche and stuff. I was watching a Garth Brooks documentary just last week, and he talked about when he moved to Nashville the first time. It was actually pretty overwhelming for him because when he was doing so well in his hometown, he went to Nashville and he was just another artist. What was the learning curve like the first time you moved out there? How was that experience for you, just fresh into the city?
It is nerve-wracking, man. I think I did the smart thing. If anybody asked me, I would suggest to do the same thing. Is before moving to town, come up here as much as you can and get to know the area as best you can. And that's when you kind of start making friends and you start, building your niche and finding those people that you like to hang out with. Because, if you move to town, if you just decide, hey, I want to move to Nashville one day, and 2 days later you've got all your stuff packed up and you're heading up here or down here, it can be really intimidating to get here and not have any friends and not have people to hang out with, and then going out downtown and just kind of wandering around like you're lost. But there are a lot of people that do it like that. One of my buddy Tyler, he did it for a long time. He moved here not really knowing anybody, and he would sleep in his truck actually on close to Broadway in an area called Midtown. And he would go down there, he'd go hang out all night and buy people beers and try to talk to them and get to know a few people. And he lived about an hour outside of town, so he would just go sleep in his truck and try to get right the next day. So he'd be in town and didn't have to drive all the way outside of town to where he was living. But it can be really nerve-wracking, man. You gotta, like I said, the smartest thing to do to me is to start visiting as much as you can. Whether it's a week or 2 out of the month or just a couple of days out of the month, just to kind of, make your presence known to everybody that's here, that's already living here.
No, that's actually great advice. To anybody who's thinking about making that move. Nashville's obviously one of the music cities of America. You don't really get more music than Nashville. That's great advice. How's the pandemic been for Nashville?
Right now it's kind of settling down. We're they're opening up
Good.
bars a little more and allowing people to be out and about a little bit more. But when it first hit, man, it was brutal. I actually went home to Georgia for about a month or two when it first hit because I mean there was just nothing to do here. You couldn't go out anywhere, which as is anywhere else. You know, nobody was really allowing anybody to do anything. And writing was kind of weird. Thankfully enough, you know, Zoom popped up and allowed the writers to kind of stay connected that way. But even then, it was annoying almost to a point because you know nobody had used Zoom before, so we were all getting used to it. And there was also something about being in a room during the write that just makes it, you know, so much more productive than sitting behind the camera and trying to write a song.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You definitely play off the vibe of the room.
Yeah, yeah. The crowd energy and everything is very important. So now you said things are starting to open back up kind of normal. Is that right?
Yeah, so we're playing writers rounds a good bit. Like I said, my roommate, he actually had a writers round last night, and I played one a few nights ago. I think it was last week I played it.
Oh, cool.
So all my buddies and me are starting to play out a little bit more around town, and I think that the curfew was like 11 or 12. So you know, it's not normal 3 o'clock in the morning, but
yeah,
in some ways that's almost better because we're not, you know, going out and drinking as much as we usually do.
Morning's easier.
Yeah, makes the mornings a lot easier.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
But we usually do find a house to go to and finish the night at. So.
Yeah. Oh man, that's
awesome.
Party. So are you guys using a lot of different type of live streaming software, or are you guys mostly using Zoom, or how are you getting it out to fans?
Zoom. I think I've had one Zoom right. This is the second time I've ever even used Zoom. So that's why it took me so long to figure out my audio thing because I just never used it before. But I think the best way right now to stay connected to everybody is just through social media, through Facebook and doing Instagram lives and keeping people up to date on Twitter and stuff. And I think that without social media, the music industry definitely would have took a way bigger hit than it did. You know, I'm not saying it didn't take a huge hit because it definitely did, but you know, social media platforms have allowed us to kind of stay connected with everybody, as is everybody else. But you know, it's hard to play music for people when all the venues are closed. So you got to have some way to do it, and
especially in Nashville. Sure. Yeah,
that was the hardest part, man, because that's what the city was built on. That's what it revolves around is playing in bars and going out and meeting people and networking and doing all that stuff. So having all that shut down just really took a toll on the city, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. Well, what's we often like to ask artists something that's happened to them in the past that was a big struggle going through it, you know, especially music related, that in hindsight you're very grateful happened, you know, because especially the music industry is made up of a lot of those type of circumstances, and I think hope is one of the key elements of getting through that. So if you have any stories, that'd be awesome to hear.
Yeah, man, I think that all of it's really a struggle. I feel like there's not really one day on being an independent artist and coming up, trying to get a record deal and a publishing deal. There really isn't a day where you can kind of sit back and be like, you know, I'm not worried about anything. There's nothing on my mind. There's nothing that I'm struggling with right now. It's all kind of an everyday struggle because if you're not out working, somebody else is, and that person is going to take your spot really quickly. But I think that honestly, to me, man, over the past year, COVID was one of those things that when it hit, you know, everybody kind of scrambled to figure out what was the next step and how we were going to build off of that. And you know, for a lot of people took time to just kind of sit back and find out who they were as a person and who they wanted to be as an artist and who they wanted to be as a songwriter. And I was one of those people that did that. I was writing songs a lot. I was, you know, trying to figure out what songs I wanted to put out next. And I think COVID really gave me that opportunity to just relax for a minute as far as not having to be gone on the road and not having to, you know, go out every night and network and not having to constantly be on the move. You know, you don't really have a choice but just sit at home. So I think that as COVID was a struggle for everybody, I think, you know, to look at it in a positive way, it helped some people in some ways kind of, you know, get out of their shell a little bit and, you know, find out who they were as an artist and who they were as a songwriter and move on that.
Yeah, and it sounds like it gave you time to write more and kind of reflect on your art and everything. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, it's being a songwriter, man, it's different because, you know, you're honestly affected every day by something different. You know, there's something every single day that comes up in your life that you could say, oh, I could write a song about that. Or I get text messages all the time from like my grandparents or my mom or, you know, family members that aren't really into the industry, and they're like, oh, you should write a song about this, or you should write a song about that, or blah blah blah. So, you know,
that's awesome.
It just kind of being able to sit down and write, you know, get all those ideas out was good. But now it's kind of, now I need some more ideas because of all. I had to write this morning, and all three of us were sitting there kind of like, well, we don't really have anything, we haven't written yet. We, you know, wrote just about everything in the book. You know, so that was time to kind of regroup and since things are opening up a little bit, it's to figure out, you know, what's the next step. How do we deal with doing live shows with COVID around? How do you deal with doing live shows with limited capacity and, you know, stuff like that? So there's positives and there's negatives every day, every single day, regardless if COVID's around or not. You know, there's always something that you struggle with.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What's your upcoming plan then? Do you have any songs that you're looking to the future on that you're particularly excited about or anything like that?
Yeah, man. So the plan right now is we just put out that single More of You, and my other roommate, he's a videographer, and so we shot a video for it. I shot a video with him. His name is Wells Tony with Welltail Media. Shout out to him. I'll go check him out.
Nice.
So we're gonna release a video for that song, and I'm gonna hopefully be in the studio here this month, kind of talking about what songs are next and what songs we want to cut next. And I would like to put out 6-7 more songs this year.
Nice.
And, you know, put out a full project, you know, kind of like an album. But that's kind of the next step, man, is taking all those songs that I've written and putting them out. And we have shows in February. Finally, we're able to get back out on the road. So that's exciting. That's something that I'm looking forward to for this year. Being able to do that again. I missed it. I haven't played a show in over a year, so that'll be fun to finally get back out there and do it again.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That's awesome. You said February or this February when you're playing again?
Yeah. I forgot it was February already. Yeah. So this
goes fast.
This month we're gonna be on the road. We got our first run of shows in over a year. We're going to be down in Georgia. We're going to Atlanta, or to Athens, Atlanta, and then Savannah.
Nice.
And then we have a couple other venues that we're talking to, trying to get some stuff booked. It's a weird time right now because, you know, venues are obviously hurting from not being able to be open. So the budget is a little slimmer, and it's just, and as an independent artist, you know, somebody that's coming up, you know, obviously we're not going to be selling 800, 900 tickets. So we got to kind of work with the budget that we're given and go from there. So,
oh man, that's awesome. Well, yeah. What just to plug in your socials here, why don't you say where people can find you if they're looking to see updates and everything?
Yeah. So we're you can find all the tour stuff anywhere that we're playing shows. I usually post it on my social media. You know, it's Brian Fuller Music, and then we have a website too where, you know, we're about to let out some new merch, and we're gonna be posting videos and content on there. It's BrianFullerMusic.com. I mean, it's all. I think all my handles are Brian Fuller Music, so I made it pretty easy for everybody to. There's not 3 or 4 different handles or apps to look for. It's just all the same. Just Brian Fuller Music, man.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us here, Bowie. Do you have any other questions that you'd like to bring up, or?
No, just thanks.
Oh, man,
It's been great talking to you and learning more about Nashville. I mean, someplace, we'd love to see more of someday, and looking forward to going over and hopefully seeing more of the artists and seeing you play live someday would be awesome. So.
yeah,
Man.
man.
And like I told you, oh, sorry. What were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, anytime you guys are in town, just give us a holler, man. We'd go out and grab a beer or something, hang out.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Well, we're trying to figure out when we can start traveling again with everything, meeting artists. And I mean, we love your stuff. Like I was telling you before we started recording, myself, that song of yours, Myself, is my favorite that you've done. I actually really enjoy it. I added it to one of my playlists. So and yeah, your release was fantastic. That. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we're pushing for it really hard. We're hoping it does good. And, you just kind of keep your fingers crossed on that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, again, as an independent artist, you don't have anybody really, or any major labels or anybody like that pushing you. So you're just kind of doing it on your own and putting your stuff out there and hoping everybody likes it.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Well, hey, thanks for your time. We've really enjoyed talking to you. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.